Under Trump's presidency, a tariff of 27.5% was imposed on basically any EV that came from a foreign country into the US. So basically, Chinese EVs were taxed a lot. So that makes it kind of considerably more difficult for Chinese brands to compete in the US market. I think everyone knows this probably by now, it's 2024. So this has also remained in place through Biden's administration of the US. So this suggests that a broader consensus in Washington against removing measures that are seen as protective measures against the Chinese imports of EVs is there. You know, people generally agree with this. And Trump's campaign speeches included vows to impose significant tariffs on Chinese imported goods, not just their EVs, but other goods as well. So that kind of underscores his administration's stance on trade relations with China. And there's a little bit of an interesting thing, a point to make. I'll get to that at the end. The argument against Chinese EVs isn't limited to economic factors. National security concerns also, they've been raised. Everyone kind of is aware of this too. At this point, they've even put stuff in movies about it. I can't remember the movie. There's a movie that sort of has Teslas in America, I think, and then they get stopped or something whilst they're driving around the roads. If you remember that film, put it in the comments. I'll pin that comment because I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, so there's definitely sort of concerns that they're kind of like smartphones on wheels, and if they're coming from China, then that kind of is something to be concerned with. There's fears that vehicles equipped with, they basically say smart technologies, could potentially be used to collect and transmit data, and that poses a risk, a really big risk to the US national interest, basically. These are concerns viewed by some experts as less substantiated given the limited presence of Chinese EVs in the US. So there are just not many EVs there. Why are they concerned about it is kind of the argument there. It does seem to be a bit far-fetched in one way that the Chinese may want to use some data from your travels or to be able to turn off your car maybe mid-travel in some sort of attack on the West. That is a bit of a far-fetched notion. But in another way, especially when you look back at history and how history repeats itself and the history between, you know, like political tensions, shall we say, it doesn't seem that crazy, does it? Because in some way, technology can be used against you as well as to serve you very easily in this last 10 or 20 years, as we've seen. So, for example, you could argue that giving out your biometric data to your personal phone makes it easy to secure your money on your banking app to you, basically, with your face, with your thumbprint. That's really good. It serves you very well in that sense, you know. But then what if that data, once, you know, these companies have got enough of it, share it or sell it or just basically just give it to the government, and the government overnight have all of your biometrics on your thumbprint for everyone, you know? That, you know, if that ever became the norm in the not so distant future, then that would be a bit, I'd be uncomfortable with that, honestly. And if our faces are scanned when we enter shops, I'd be very uncomfortable with that. And that has already started happening in all sorts of businesses all over the world, including the UK and Australia. I think I read a story about a garden centre in the UK doing it. So it isn't that crazy to suggest that a potential threat to the West is supplying us vehicles with internet connection, cameras, microphones. That's just common sense. Even if you're on the other side of the fence, it's common sense. You can't deny the facts. A spoon is a spoon. So they seemingly could see your dash cam, possibly. I don't know. I'm not a technological wizard. If they wanted to, they could see it. If you know, if you worked in the White House, for example, and they wanted to hear the microphone in the car or see the camera, like there's a fear that they could possibly fathom how to do that. So that's why Chinese cars are banned from the White House and other official buildings. So I don't want to feed conspiracy theorists with this stuff because it's not the point, and it's actually quite interesting to think about it. You know, so I'm fleetingly making comments about this on YouTube, obviously, but generally, I personally don't think if you bought a BYD Seagull for 15 grand or something, or an MG4, that this poses a threat to you or national security at all. the very fact that you were allowed to buy it suggests that it isn't overtly a threat. If that was the case, then they would simply not be allowing them to be sold, is my opinion on this. So whatever your thoughts are on this, if you think one thing or another, just put it in the comments, because I'm sure there's some really different opinions floating around on this, and I'm definitely interested to read it. I know a lot of other people would be quite keen to read it. So if you know about it as well on a technological level, or any information, or anything interesting, please put that down there. I know some Americans that watch whom I've chatted with, and they have fantastic things to say on this, and they know a lot. Like if you've ever spoken to an electrical engineer, or let's say a battery chemist, fascinating people. You are very fascinating people, and you know a lot. Competing against established loyalty to American and foreign brands such as Toyota and Tesla, those sorts of things, they're huge hurdles. So despite those challenges, the Chinese auto industry as a whole, but also the EV companies like BYD, they've demonstrated a lot of resilience, and they've been focusing on markets that are just a bit more viable, where economic conditions are more favourable. And it's not exactly great in like the UK or the EU, for example, if you're trying to sell a BYD car, but they're doing it anyway, and they're ploughing money into it. And people, I've been in the EU and the UK for the last few weeks, and I've seen loads, for example. So they're clearly doing all right. So basically, Donald Trump's comments on the difficulty for Chinese EVs to penetrate the American market encapsulate a multifaceted issue involving trade policies, national security, market entry challenges, and I could go on and say some more, probably. So these things collectively are contributing to the current landscape where Chinese EVs are rare in the US. There are basically none, or not many at all. Despite China's significant production and innovation and having compelling cars in the EV sector, there's still not many in the US, which is really strange, isn't it? Well, if you're from Europe and then you go to the US and you see none, it would be a bit weird potentially, but yeah, anyway, they're becoming commonplace. If you think 20 years ago, pretty much no Chinese cars on the road, practically. If you exclude things like the Honda Jazz, which may have been designed and then made in China, for example, because I know that they've made some 2008 Honda Jazzes, and some other years they actually made them in China, but to the design of Honda. If I had to put it as succinctly as possible, I would say there is clearly this feeling of quite a bit of distrust with China, although we love their EVs. So that one sentence, that's what I think about this. I understand that might be controversial to say, so what do you all think about it? Let me know in the comments. I'll be, for the next couple of hours, once I've posted this video, I'll be looking through the comments and just seeing what people are saying. Pretty interested to see, what your opinions are about this. Donald Trump, obviously, he's not a big fan of China or their EVs, obviously. So, yeah, what do we all think about it? It's very hard to talk about Donald Trump and Chinese EVs and Donald Trump in the same thing without looking like you're on one side of the fence, but I am positively on the fence. I really am. I'm just trying to see it for what it is. Their cars are bloody good, and, Donald Trump is controversial, and there are reasons why countries like the US might want to be very strict about where they're importing stuff from and where their money goes. It all makes sense, I think. So there's not much need to take it much further than that, I don't think. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video a little bit, I'm a bit out of practice. I haven't made a video for a while, several days probably, and even before that, several days before that. Yeah, my name is Ben Alexander. This is The Charge Show. I make EV news videos normally every day, and I will be going back to every day. There's just a lot of traveling going on at the minute. So some of you know I was in Australia, then I came to Europe, and UK and Europe, and so it's just been a very busy time, and it takes a huge amount of effort to set up the cameras and to do all the research, and I really spend a lot of time researching my videos. So it's just very difficult to do it every day whilst you're in the middle of moving around a bit. So I've now got a bit of stability, a little bit of peace at the minute, and yeah, my house in Australia is currently rented out, so that makes me technically homeless. because it's rented out for another couple of months. And so, yeah, I just find myself floating around Europe. So if you're at the Everything Electric show, then please say hello. Feel free to say hello. I'll be there probably on Saturday. I think I've got a ticket for the whole weekend. I have a ticket, like a press ticket. And so they asked me if I wanted to go, and they give me a ticket. I'll probably be there on Saturday, possibly Friday, rocking around, having a look at things. So I'm not sure if you want me to do any videos of anything or a live stream or something like that, like a quick walkthrough. Not really sure how interested people are because, you might, you're interested in EVs, but you might not be overly bothered about an EV show with lots of Nissan Leafs and Teslas and stuff. It just might not be your cup of tea. But if you are, let me know in the comments. I will do something whilst I'm there. Otherwise, I may not. But I will try to do a couple of things. I think there's an unveiling of a car. I forgot what car that is. Maybe a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or 6 N-Line or something. I think there was an unveiling or something. But regardless, anyway, I will do something and you'll see. So thank you for watching, and thank you for your time. Have a lovely day, and I'll probably get this out tomorrow. So yeah,